Hello and welcome to Cosmic Crap. I'm Ariel.
Hello, welcome back to Cosmic Crap. This is Mousa.
Well, it's welcome back for us because this is literally our 100th attempt to record this show. We very perfectly, our first episode is We Know Nothing, which heavily includes how to record a podcast.
Yeah.
We're trying our best. We are trying our best. So this is Cosmic Crap. We are, well, I wouldn't call us longtime friends at this point, but I don't know, newish friends, and we talk about all things mental health, yoga, Eastern philosophy. We're probably going to talk a lot about capitalism. It's not easy to avoid when I'm here. And yeah, we're excited. We're excited to jump in. We're excited to share our ideas, which ultimately are relatively meaningless. But here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly exciting to talk about so many stuff while at the same time, we don't really know much about it, but yeah, it's fun, I guess.
I was talking to some friends earlier this morning, actually, about self-doubt and how sort of interesting it is to look at, at its face. But you and I talk about all of this stuff all the time. I feel like daily we're sending each other these like 10-minute voice notes about some talk that we heard. Ram Dass is my go-to, and you always expand my like knowledge base. And then I go to somebody else who I'm like less comfortable talking to about this, and I doubt everything. I'm like, I don't know anything. I can't say anything about Rob. Like, I've listened to hundreds of hours at this point. I feel like I could give his little speeches, but there's this overarching like, but maybe I'm wrong. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I think the approach of knowing it or not knowing it, or right and wrong, maybe is not very applicable. I think so. I can't really say why, but it doesn't seem to me it's something like science or empirical things or some stuff like that. I guess it's more of a personal experience and. Um, yeah, a mixture of so many things. So it's hard to say if it's right or wrong. Or yeah, I'm not sure if the question is really applicable. I don't know. So it's yeah.
I think you're right. I think what makes it a little more, at least for me, a little more uncertain to talk about things that come from personal experience. It's, while I can speak on authority about my own personal experience, I never want to like copy that onto somebody else. And I just think a lot of, even societally, there's a lot of like shit tied in with that of people are going to call you on your shit. And now we're recording a podcast that whoever is going to listen to. And there's so many people that could be like, wow, you guys are wrong and you're dumb. But we will charge ahead anyway. And in our defense, our first episode is called We Know Nothing. So we're
Yeah,
preparing you.
yeah. It's I don't know if that's promising or not.
Like an important disclaimer.
Yeah, it is very important one, I think. It's also quite unlimiting because knowledge, as great as it is also bounding. I think it limits us to look through or other things. Because once we know that we have the truth, it's final. It's done. We finished. So, and if this is the case, then the discovery stops, and we will just be halted in our current place, and we won't probably do anything because we finished. So somehow acknowledging that it's really hard to know also uh, adds to the journey of
Mm.
always seeking or looking for what we want to look for. Yeah, I think.
So one of the things that we had, oh, I don't know, 1,000 years ago at this point, planned to talk about was UG. Fill in the rest of the name for me because it's been too long.
Krishnamurti, Yuji
Thank
Krishnamurti.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean,
Yes.
there's two actually Krishnamurti, because it is a very famous Indian name. There's so many people who are actually called that, but for the purpose of the discussion, it's only two people: J. Krishnamurti and UG Krishnamurti. And UG was, I don't want to say a student of J. Krishnamurti, but they had several discussions and meetings, etc. Um, they agreed and they clashed, and but they didn't end up on really good terms. Yeah, it's a long story, I think. J. Krishnamurti is also interesting. He wrote a book in the 50s about freedom, and it was forwarded by Huxley. Um, I think the first and last freedom, something like that. And he was speaking about what is and all that kind of stuff. It is. It is, I would say, relatively famous book. Um, yeah, Yuji did not write any books, but people compiled many of his speeches into books while he was still alive. So somehow he did not oppose that. I would say he didn't care much about it. J. Krishnamurti, I guess he wrote only that book, and the other books people compile it from his speeches and stuff like that. Both
So for
are
those
interesting.
for those that don't know, can you're a much better person to do this than I am. Can you give like a not a bio necessarily, but a quick like explainer of UG and his stance, I guess.
Yuji has interesting life. He met Ramana Maharshi, the famous Indian teacher or guru or whatever people want to call him. Uh, and he was also somehow affiliated with the Theosophical Society. I don't remember the exact name. They don't exist anymore, I think, or even if they do, they are not that famous. Anyhow, then he went through a biological change, or so what, like he calls it that way. He calls it the calamity, I think. Somehow it just hit at him like that. But he doesn't really prefer to speak about it because people will take it um, as a material to speak about him and stuff. But he really, or I think he doesn't care when people speak about that, but he doesn't want them because it's somehow distracting them from what they want. So if someone asks him, he would say to them, why do you care, uh, or how is it important for you, or like things like that. um, he he does not really believe in anything. He does not endorse anything. Um, and The bottom line, I think, is that he thinks everything we do and everything we say and everything we experience had been given to us, and there's no way out. So there's no way out. So anything like um, enlightenment does not exist. Thoughts does not exist, or uh, do not actually are not actually there. And he thinks that what is there is about thoughts, not the thoughts. So when we think about the thoughts, but the thoughts themselves do not exist. So it's a bit abstract. For, I would say, practical reasons, it doesn't really matter if it's if it's thoughts or not thoughts. It's just still something there that bothers us, I guess, or somehow creates uh, creates issues for us and problems and whatnot. Um,
Now,
so
this is not a man who would say, "I know nothing," right? I think this is somebody
well,
that's relatively confident in their stance.
yeah, but the thing is that he does not really want to. Um, yeah, I guess you're right. But the difference is that he does not really substitute that with anything. So, like, he might say, well, everything we go through do not really exist, and um, everything had been fed to us. Uh, and then what? Nothing. There's nothing. So he basically goes to you, destroys everything, and then leaves. And because when he leaves, he does not give you any substitute, you feel empty. Then it's nothing. There is nothing out there. And yeah, that's what he basically says. Um, that there's actually nothing. And I think that's old. I don't know if it's old, but to me it seems old that there is actually nothing that is something had been held by so many people before. However, he had also many things that um, mm, I would say at least controversial. So he does not believe in empirical science, or he refuses empirical science. He does not really held any trust or to scientists or doctors or anyone of that sort. Um, yeah, he called all the teachers and the gurus and all that kind of people are actually con men, and yeah, they are like the worst, and yeah, stuff like that. And he calls so many people names. So if someone actually does not know something, they won't go that far because they don't need to. There is no need
Mm.
to promote or disagree with anyone because it doesn't matter. Why actually does it matter? But yeah, he somehow wants to um, yeah oppose the mainstream ideas. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much about what he thinks, Yuji Krishnamurti.
I I think
Yeah.
that there's some benefit in that because you have, and this changes, so much over time. The, what we look at now as whoever may take the place of these people that were much more prominent in the 60s, 70s, 80s. We're living almost in a different world now,
Yeah,
and there are a lot of frauds and there are a lot of people out there who should not be spouting anything about anything about mental health, about philosophy. So I think that there is a certain benefit in that, but for me, people with such a I would use the word aggressive. I doubt that he would use this word, but like an aggressive stance like that, to me feels like, well, I don't want to participate. You're just going to be mean to me. Like as I'm trying to learn. And for some people, you're right. It totally works. But I think I've said to you before, like I'm scared I'm scared to have my feelings hurt when I listen to him.
oh yeah, he actually goes that far. He I mean, in his personal or private meetings, he goes too far with some people. Some people might take it, some people might not.
Mm,
But he is too plain. He does not. Um, he does not sugarcoat anything. He just goes too forward, too direct most of the time. I think he always hold himself when something on TV, when yeah, something that is on radio or TV. So yeah, he is totally cool. But with his private meetings, this is not the case at all. For good or for bad. Um, yeah. So he is definitely interesting case or person, um, because he does not hold anything holy.
mm.
So no faith, no technique, no method, nothing. There's nothing. So if someone tells him, well, my Christianity or whatever faith people follow, he doesn't hold that holy, or he does not consider this as something significant, or any ancient techniques, any sort of I would say uh, mindfulness or anything
Oh,
similar.
all the stuff I love. Yeah.
So he actually has a negative stance with that. Um, he thinks that meditation makes people neurotic, and no one should meditate at all. And I think he thinks everything similar to it also the same. So yeah, any sort of yoga techniques or anything, yeah, in that realm is also something that is bad, pretty much.
I
Um,
think the thing that I struggle with the most with him is this idea that there is one right way for everyone, because I that to me is completely ridiculous. But also, if you don't believe in science, like I can see how you would get to that point of, okay, well,
yep.
I have found the right way and therefore like I've done it for you all. But
Mhm.
I mean, I guess we probably should have given little like explainers on who you and I are as people. But I've been a yoga teacher for a long time. And sort of in the last couple years, I'm shifting to like somatic based yoga and looking. We were talking just the other day about this yoga nidra study I'm doing, and they're studying like what happens in the brain. And while I love and fully back these styles that I'm learning and now teaching, I can also say it's a little different with somatics because it is a brain science, and so it's probably beneficial for most people. But for me to just show up and say, "Here's the thing that works for me. Here you go, world. It's going to work exactly the same for you, and if you do this one thing that is literally like 10,000 years old and has been studied, like to say that that is wrong, it makes you neurotic. To some people, yes. Some people, quite frankly, do it wrong, and they fall into this like Western idea of what yoga is, and they fall into yoga does have a lot of traps in it. But to say that you shouldn't meditate hurts my heart a little bit.
Yeah. Um, I think the techniques are overestimated. Mm,
Mm,
what I think what we truly don't give um consideration to is the goal and the, I would say, the true want or true desire to do a certain thing. It seems to me that we are driven by other things to want something. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that the things that we want is because someone else told us to want them, and that is not really genuine enough. So when we fail, we always think about the way, the method that we used. Oh, I was doing some yoga, but it didn't work out, so I will try something else. I don't think it's because of yoga. It's just maybe you really don't want it, and maybe that's why it didn't work out. That is one possible thing. I'm not saying that is like the only way, but it seems to me it is the most critical one, because if someone truly wants something, the method won't matter much. They will get it in some way or another. So if something won't work, they will actually try something else, and so they will keep going. And they won't focus too much about the method because their mind is so busy thinking about the goal, or maybe their mind is not really thinking at all, they're just doing things. um yeah, so for me, if someone says yoga is good, do it. Or someone says yoga will make you crazy, it doesn't matter either way. I don't care. Because why would someone actually go and do it? For what purpose? So I think the purpose is is the strongest uh, the strongest factor. Mm,
that's something that I think should be part of conversation more, because it's that question, like what why do you do this, can be any, the answer can be anything depending on who the person is. And so often you get people who answer in a I don't know how to describe it other than like a totally not yoga way. Like, I want to be thin or I want to be more flexible. And not that those are like massively invalid, but to me, that indicates like no amount of searching. And the most important part of my journey with exploring yoga and meditation is, well, I started with those reasons. I started with the very American, like, oh, you skinny, cool people do yoga. And then when you can get past that, which is wildly important, it turns into a question that maybe you can never answer. I don't know why I do it, because it can offer many things, but I'm one person and it depends on how I do it. What I want is to forever remain curious. And I find that yoga is like the perfect place to keep that curiosity. And so
Mhm.
to just say don't do it or do it, you'll feel great. Like, maybe here are some things that yoga and meditation can do. What, like, maybe pick a starting point and explore. And you're right, we need to get past this like highly attached idea of yoga and the things that it can bring. But when you have somebody like Yuji just say don't do it instead of maybe consider why you do it, I feel like there
Yeah.
could be a gentler approach, but what do I
No,
know?
he has even a radical approach to it. So if someone actually says, well, I do it because I am trying to solve a problem that I have, he will question the very existence of that problem. So if someone says, well, I am depressed, so he would say, well, I mean, he would say stuff, but it will all be about, do you think that depression is actually there? So, so um, what he is trying to say is that everything, the problem and the solution, both are created by the mind. So we are dealing with the solution, but there's no actually problem there. So we have so many answers, but we don't have any question. We don't have a problem to solve. Um, so he somehow goes too far to the level that we don't have any problems at all. And they are all being created by our own minds. And even he says that the mind is a myth. The mind does not. Well, so nothing is really out there for him. So nothing is there. Um, so that's quite radical for most people, I think, to accept, because they might accept it if he gives them alternative or a way, but he doesn't do that either. He doesn't do anything, so he just destroys destroys everything and then leaves. So that's a quite annoying for so many people. It's just why, and really, so it's somehow so he's not suitable for most people, I think. Most people won't actually get him. That's my claim, I think, because we have so many concepts in our mind, and those concepts are so integrated into us, and he questions the existence of those stuff. So, and we won't let him do so. So we will be weirded out or creeped out from him somehow, but not in a very bad way, but just he questions everything, and we take so many things as facts, and he just doesn't go with that at all. So yeah,
I think
I,
that there's a lot of importance and a lot of truth in that. There are, um yeah, ultimately everything is fucking made up. Like, oh, like what, we're
yeah,
podcasting right now. Like some time ago somebody just like made this up. And still we're humans who live on this earth who are having a human experience. And after a certain point to just say, well, that's not real, your thoughts aren't real, your brain's not real. Why what is the point then, if everything is so meaningless that we can boil it down to, well, it's just made up. And I think after a certain point that becomes not helpful, it becomes quite harmful. And yeah, it probably works for some people, and I'm, what his methods work for him, and that's great. I just, I find it to be like leaning a little more on the harmful side than I think I would. I'm fragile though. There's no secret, I'm very fragile.
I don't know, to be honest, but I would not recommend it for many people. I would be careful to, like, to whom should I say, oh, maybe you can check this guy out. I wouldn't do that, to be honest. Yeah, he is so radical, and he will make so many people feel bad, because they might go on the uh, absurdity side of what's happening in this sad planet, and also, yeah, the meaninglessness of everything. Because certainly he does not believe in the meaning of anything at all. And so many people think that I am like, I should search for a meaning for my life, or somehow a purpose, or some stuff like that. Uh, and Yeah, I think all the what's so called teachers and the gurus don't believe in any meaning at all. There is no such a thing. um, and that's somehow depressing, because it means that, well, everything we do has no meaning. So what the fuck? So why am I doing anything at all? um, so
Well,
it
and
is
tell that to
somehow
somebody who's like deeply
depressing.
depressed, who UG says depression's not real, there's no meaning in anything. Like, that's not.
I think this will work in a very strong way. So the person either will be extremely sad, depressed, as deep as he or she might go, or he might be cured, or, like, I mean, cured, because it is a very radical things. So yeah, it's very strong, and if the person won't go that far in their sadness, or anxiety, or depression, it depends, they might get out of it for good. Mm, because it will actually destroy everything that they think it exists, and then they are free. But this is a very high risk task. It's not something that should be done, I guess, because the other side of it is so scary. So this is not wise, I guess. And
if
Yeah, I don't know.
if somebody is like new to exploring Eastern philosophy, maybe don't start here. Maybe start with somebody else.
No, this is not philosophy at all,
Mm.
because he says, well, there's nothing, so everything that is there, it's just not there, so there is no philosophy to
it's,
discuss. it's
I've
it's, it's
already
like it's
fallen into the traps.
zero. No. um, there's nothing is there, unlike the Buddhist ancient books or something. Yeah, they have philosophies, and they have certain things, and they speak about the mind, they speak about so many stuff, and so yeah, they have what's so called philosophy. Yeah, it's somehow a model to perceive the world, but the kind of Yuji and the likes of him, yeah, I would be hesitant to call it a philosophy because there's no model. It's empty. Uh, I don't know.
I would be curious to
No idea.
see, like, are there people that really prescribe to what he says, and if there are, like, I almost feel like there's a certain level of privilege in being able to fully prescribe to that, because probably you start there, but then you can't have a job because jobs are made up, capitalism's made up, but you still have to like pay your bills. We can't just, you know, we can't really run off and disappear into the forest and live. Well, he doesn't believe in enlightenment, but I don't know what what else you call his goal. So it's, I would be very curious to see what does that look like in practice today, and can you even be a member of society if that is your thinking? Not that society is that great, to be honest, because I wanted to like defend living like as a human, and you know what? That's pretty fucked up. So
Yeah,
maybe he's onto something.
yeah, I agree. But I would say in practice it won't differ much because the person will just acknowledges that nothing is really real, whatever that means. But this does not imply doing anything.
Hmm.
It's just like I know that I feel sad, but I won't do anything. Because I mean, he thinks that there is no way out. There's yeah. So what's so called the conditioning, and to be free from it. The way to be free is another way of being conditioned. We're just changing the paths, but it's pretty much the same thing. So there is no way out. We just have to know or have to uh, understand that it is made up, and that's it. So that does not imply that we will go to the forest or we will leave our jobs or we will do anything. Nothing, because there is nothing to be done. It's I don't know if this is depressing or not.
I was just thinking I can't decide, because for a minute there I was like totally on board, because in like some of my moments of like frustration or disappointment or upset, I can tell myself like this is all fucking made up, who cares? And like that is a like a way that I can successfully get through moments. But then you kept talking and I was like, "Oh my god, no, but now I'm just like feeling worse and worse." Like I was there for a second, but then we can't get out of it. So it really is this like loop of, maybe depending on where you are in this like cycle of everything's made up. Like there's a little portion of it where, yeah, everything's made up. That's okay, before it gets to, oh god, everything is made up.
It's somehow being self-conscious is some sort of a curse.
Mm.
We however, we have done so many stuff with that. We created our modern lifestyle. We uh, we I would say invented so many stuff as well. So certainly it's not 100% bad, but in dealing with ourselves, it's complicated, to say the
Mm-hmm.
least. But um, I think the reason that there is no way out is that anytime you try to get out, it will be just a different sort of imprisonment or being conditioned. So somehow we live in a big jail, and you just changed the cells. So you were in cell 1, and then now you will go to cell 3. Nothing. It's the same jail, but just different things. And that's why there is no way out. I think, and here the paradox actually comes when we start to do nothing. We will probably be free from that big jail, uh, because, well, I don't know. It's somehow, when you give it up truly, uh, and you think that there is no way, you start to live naturally. You are not tied by anything, and once you do, you're free. So, but the desire to do any stuff, or to do anything, or to change, or you are being imprisoned by that want, right? So the only way is just to understand the nature of things, which might take like lifetimes, and then to understand that, um, I um, there is nothing for me to actually do, but not from a sad point of view. Just it's like a natural outcome of knowing. Like, once one understands something, the natural outcome would be that. So once I understand that there is nothing to be done, then the natural outcome would be doing nothing, and then I might actually be free. But we can't approach that with our minds, because it didn't come out from us naturally. It's somehow manufactured, and I don't know why the manufactured stuff doesn't work with us. So in science, we can have so many stuff that are synthetic, that
Mm,
uh,
yeah.
that actually we made, and it works like charm. Uh, Pharmaceutical industry is the proof, the proof of that. But with us, it doesn't seem to work that way. Actually, it has to be from a different source to truly work. Uh, I don't know why. Uh, I don't know. It seems this is the only way, but I mean, it will be just genuine and pure and direct, so it will work. Understandable. But what is it about the I would say, the things that we create, that they don't work with us very much? Mm, I mean, since the creation of so many pharmaceuticals, we eradicated so many infectious diseases and stuff, and we created a huge progress. But in our psyche, this this doesn't seem the same. Um, Although we became so much richer, uh, knowledgeable, and we have so many tools. We live in a much way convenient situations. We are much more comfortable, um, and we don't seem, and we have psychology, we have psychotherapy, we have so many stuff, and it doesn't seem that the progress in that is similar to the progress in the physiological diseases.
I think you
Uh,
have to take context into account with things like that
yeah.
because in so many places there's so much stigma around it that maybe, if it was something that was widely acceptable, and even today, I would say it's probably like the most accepting that society is of mental health care, but there's still massive limitations on it. Who can get it? Who has access to it? How
Mhm.
affordable it is? The different variety, like even physically, where do you have access to an office like that? And I, I'm going to go off on my like anti-capitalism thing here. Everybody, hold on. I think that pretty heavily we're not allowed to be free thinkers to a certain extent. And if we had a society where everybody was, whether they are free or trying to be free, knowing that that's a sort of a trap in itself, um, our governments and our worlds would not work the same way because when you have, a population of people that has figured out, yeah, all this shit is made up and none of it is permanent. None of it is how it should be. Then control shifts, and that is very dangerous for people in power. So I wonder if there's a certain level of design to almost hindering growth in that aspect.
Mhm. Mm, yeah, I don't know, but it
Very
seems like,
skeptical of governments, everyone.
yeah, I mean, the governments are not really the best entities, um, but
Well, yeah, how many, well, I can speak for the US, they still view yoga as a religious practice, which, like, okay, that's where we are. That's where we are with this. All right, great.
okay. uh, so just people can create a religion uh, around it.
I think it's more of a just a wild misunderstanding. It didn't come from America, so it must be bad. I don't know. I don't know the reasoning behind it. It's wrong, whatever it is.
Yeah, I see.
I
Yeah.
think we're sort of discouraged from doing that type of exploration because when you can get people in mass to say, I don't want to work for somebody else to live in a mansion and I can't afford my rent. I think, and again, it can go so many different ways because it can go in that way where people are then finding themselves freedom and it sort of like upsets the way of things, but you can
Mhm.
also take it the other way and say, okay, well, none of this is made up and I am part of this system that I cannot change. And you just like I wonder if I had to like summarize Yuji's belief in a single word, I acceptance. I think just acceptance of what is. And so maybe it creates. No, you're shaking your head. No, it's too simple. I've made it too simple.
Yeah, because he was asked that as well, and he
Oh,
refuses
shoot this
to
down,
call
man.
it. Acceptance is happening like someone used their thoughts to accept some. It's just not there. So you can you cannot accept something that does not exist because it doesn't exist.
This is
So
gonna make
it's,
my brain explode.
yeah, I don't know. So he does not really use that term at all. I mean, it's kind of makes sense with what he's saying, because if something does not exist, we cannot accept it because it's not there. So the thing is that when he says that something does not exist, people think about it and say, okay, uh, let's assume that it doesn't exist. He questions their claim, their assumptions. So he might say, well, do not assume, because you didn't actually understood what I said. So he does not try to make a intellectual argument, or so it's not like, oh, they don't exist, okay, let's assume that they do not exist. No, it doesn't work like that with him. So with him, it's like you have to understand that it doesn't exist. So he speaks to a different part of us rather than the uh, intellectual mind. Uh, so I mean, if we say, for example, that the dinosaurs do not exist now, no one would ask for a proof, or let's assume that they do not exist. No, they don't exist. Like we can't build assumptions over it because they don't exist. So he somehow tries to make it that way. So I am also approaching it from intellectual point of view, but I think just to explain his stand. Uh, but yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
That is how so much of this ends, with just like, here's this whole big long, like, really good explainer, but I don't know. I feel like to explain his stance, you have to pick like a lens almost to look at it, because how can you explain nothingness without something? I guess.
Yep, yep. Uh, I don't know. It's mm, he questions the existence of the problems, that everything we have is solutions and we don't have a problem to solve in the first place. And that somehow, yeah, it's needs more investigation, I think. But
I can see it to a certain extent, but it's, man, it's real quick to get caught up in, okay, but wait, like, I want to justify a lot of things, which I'm guessing is like part of the problem for me to immediately just be like, no, let me give you a list of things that are real, that do matter. But when when you boil it down, if you take me and you like plot me somewhere else, like into a different life, like, probably these things that I think are problems that I have in this life don't exist in that other one, so therefore how valid are they in this one?
yeah,
But
yeah,
also, if you come to me and you say my problems are not valid, my feelings are going to be hurt.
yeah, yeah. It's somehow I am undermining, yeah, what people are actually going through. So
Mm,
if someone
yeah.
is like, for example, let's go. I don't know, if someone is in prison, or someone lost their child, or some sort of, yeah, something like that. It's just, I can say, uh, I can say there's no problem. It's just I
There's a
can
lot
just
of instances where that's really fucked up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can just go to someone who lost their child, and they say, "Oh, well, your problem is made up. It's not real. It's just." I mean, I mean, I don't
No,
know.
do yoga, but don't do yoga.
Absolutely not. But I think if we start to see it from the point of view of death, maybe
Mm,
things start to clear out. I don't want to seem depressing or anything, but death is the thing that kills everything. It doesn't just kill the person. It kills everything else, because it kills the yeah. It's basic. Yeah, it basically all gone. So, and with that in mind, if someone says nothing exists, well, yeah, now we start to think about it or to see it, because, well, if I know that I will die soon, then yeah, maybe my problems are not that big after all. Yeah, maybe they are not that of an issue, I would say. Um, so death is it is the truth. Uh, it is the ultimate, I would
mm,
say. The thing that drives our life, because if I know that I will live forever, I will live very different life. I would do everything I want to do. Well, I'm not gonna die, so heck, I will live. Like, I will do everything, right? So death is quite limiting, but somehow we manage to escape its grip. So we know that we will die, but still, it's not constantly on our minds, like 24/7. So we still do stuff that, yeah, they might kill us, or like, yeah, I would say not kill us, but harm us. We might do stuff that is not compatible with the belief that we will die, or the fact that we will die, but we still do it. So we lost the grip of death over us. So that is somehow merciful, I think. Uh, Otherwise, we will live in fear, and we will be very, very careful about everything we do, because we might die. Well, if I go out, maybe a car will just hit me, and then I die. So, okay, maybe I just should stay at home. So we have a certain threshold of taking risks. I mean, being here is just risk. So, but we have a very high risk for it. Mm, uh, but yeah, certainly, yeah, I can just go to someone who is suffering, and in the heat of the moment, and say stuff like that's just doesn't work. And it yeah, it's somehow quite selfish, and yeah yeah it violates so many things beyond
mhm.
just the social stuff. um, yeah.
So you said you don't want to, a bit ago, you said you don't want to make it too depressing by sort of relating most things back to death. But my initial response to that, because a big part of this study and this work that I'm doing right now is talking about feelings, what, feeling anything about anything, like what the emotional reaction that we have to things. And we have decided which feelings are acceptable and which are quote unquote bad.
Hmm.
And by doing that, and this is a thing that my true love Ramdas talks about all the time, this it is part of the human experience to have all of these things. Part of the human experience is dying and experiencing death, and it is difficult, but we have all decided that it's scary or this inevitable thing which we all have to experience in some form has um like there's like a I don't want there's like a pushing away of it almost, and in the way that it can grip people, and fear is really sort of extreme. And I think it's pretty common for people, and I lived this recently. You experience death with somebody close to you, and it really changes everything. It's reorganizes your priorities in a way that I personally was never able to do without the intense experience of death near to me. Um, but I almost would be curious to like talk about how different cultures handle it, because there are some cultures where it's like a beautiful thing, and there's like beautiful celebration when somebody dies. But in this more Western thinking, it's you do get a lot of people that they really think they can just live forever. Like death is not a thing that we have to experience in the Western
Yeah,
world because that's hard, and we decided we don't want it.
yeah. I think, yeah, but that's also in most of the places, not just the West, well, I would say in so many places, at least, that are not considered Western. Uh, yeah, I think the experience of death is more about the person who lives, not the person who
Mm-hmm.
dies. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like sad because I lost someone, but
Mm-hmm.
not because he or she actually died. I mean, if yeah, yeah, it's somehow overlapping, but it's because they lost their company, so they are not here anymore. But if somehow we can visit the dead, people won't be that sad because, well, I die, but you still can visit me. So, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that works. So they won't be actually that sad, although the person is died. Because, well, I mean, by visiting the dead is that they are prohibited from doing anything that we do. So it's somehow like a prison. So they will be sad, but not as much. And that degree of sadness coming from losing their company, that, yeah, they are not here anymore. So it is more about us than them, I would argue. But I mean, yeah, death doesn't have to be that bad, but it is somehow, it's not depressing, but it's just, it is the end. uh,
Mm.
and the end might be good for some people and might be bad for others, or it's just the end.
Well, it's
So
one of very few things in the human experience that is so certain. Like everything has like almost like a little bit of wiggle room to it. Death, no, it's not so much. It's pretty straightforward.
binary, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, there's another thing. You guys are going to hear a lot about binaries on this show. I feel very strongly. Well, I think speaking of the definitive end, I think we might be at the end of this show. Do you have any last little,
Everything
little
comes,
depressing tidbits you want to add before we wrap up?
it's the dead of our first episode.
Hopefully, a good one. Hopefully, we're in a culture where people celebrate and not this bad one.
Mhm.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully,
Thank
you don't feel like shit.
you. I hope not.
Well, and if you don't and you want to look up UG, you're gonna be you're gonna be all good to go
I do
in
not
that front.
recommend it. Yeah, well, you
Well,
can watch a movie or something. I don't
yeah. We want to chat. We want to hear your thoughts. So comment wherever you can find us. You can find us on all the social media, some version of Cosmic Crap on Instagram. What do we have? YouTube, Twitter. I will refuse to call it anything other than Twitter because we all know what it's called. And we'll be back in 2 weeks for another podcast that's gonna finish with us saying, but we don't know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming by, and hopefully you will have a great time afterward.
Even though your great time is made up.
Pretty much. You will die at the end.
But it'll be great. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's a solid ending. Bye.
Ciao. Bye bye.